Welcome back. This recap is for those Eki and Harem lovers where our main guy wakes up in a game, and to survive he must become a hunter. But other than food and water, he does have other desires, and what other way to spend some cash if not by buying slaves? Kaga sets his eyes on buying a cute fox girl by completing countless tasks. Will our guy stop at one slave, or will he need a harem to satisfy his needs? Kaga wakes up and see that he is inside the game that he was looking at before and looks at the equipment he gotten as well. He checks out the sword and the ring that give him some boost. He heads out to explore the game and sees that he is in a village. He sees that a group of bandits start to attack the village, and one of them is wearing a red bandana as well. The villagers start defending themselves but are outnumbered. Kaga thinks that this is the right moment to attack and strikes their leader with his sword. He kills of some other bandits while few of them escape. Kaga now seems to have leveled up and the village chief thanks him for his help. He asks him to take any loot and things that they have gotten from the bandits. He offers him the loot, but Kaga notices that the bandana has been swapped, and he asks the village chief, who tells him that he will investigate it as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Kaga tries to log out of them game, but it seems that he cannot find a way out. He gets scared that he is trapped in this game. He can't believe that this game is now his reality, and feels the blood on his hands is now real too, but he assures himself that he will now be a fighter and save people. Later on, the village chief finds the thief who took the bandana and presents him to Kaga. The chief hands him the bandana and asks what he wishes to do with the thief, but Kaga tells him to deal with the thief according to their village rules. The chief then labels the thief as a slave, which is shown on the identity card, which is usually embedded in the body and is sent away to be sold. The chief then hands over the intelligence cards of the bandits that Kaga killed to him, saying that some of them have bounties and he can avail them in the city. Kaga then sets off on a journey to the city of Vale with some loot that the chief gave him. Kaga stops at the Knights Guild and presents them the intelligence cards of the bandits. They verify them, and a female knight hands over the money to Kaga and tells him to piss off. Kaga looks around and sees a few naughty areas, and then they stop at the slave trader's place to sell the thief. Alan, the owner, meets them and buys the slave for 30k. Later on, Kaga feels that he is an outcast in this game as everyone around him is like an NPC. Just then, Alan calls him and asks if he wants to buy a slave for himself. He tells Kaga that he sells female slaves as well, which makes Kaga have naughty thoughts. Just then, a fox girl in a maid costume enters to serve tea and Kaga instantly falls for her. The merchant says that the maid's name is Roxanne, a werewolf girl who can offer help in the battle. Most importantly, Roxanne can serve her master at night as well, which makes Kaga even more reluctant on buying her. The merchant doubles his efforts and explains that a salve won't hurt her master or run away. If she does, then she will be stigmatized as a bandit. The merchant quotes 420,000 for Roxanne, promising to reserve her for 5 more days only for Kaga. Kaga is aware that if he doesn't take Roxanne, she will become the plaything for other buyers. He has a strong desire to get Roxanne, who also patiently waits for him. We see a short glimpse of the future where Kaga has become successful and returns to the village where he lived when he first entered the game. He is surrounded by beautiful women of various races, including noble elves and lovely dwarfs, as well as Roxanne. The reason why Kaga returns here is to reminisce about a short romance and his first experience in this world. He meets a little boy who looks like him and remembers about a love affair he had in the past. He asks the boy about his parents and learns that he was raised by his mother alone. Kaga instantly realizes who the boy is. He hands the boy a sword, telling him to protect his mother, and then walks away. The girls ask him if he knows the boy. Kaga tells them that he knew his father, and they leave. Meanwhile, in the present, Kaga has other matters to deal with in order to have enough money to buy Roxanne. Alan tells him about the labyrinth and that he should go there to hunt, as some adventurers hunt and make a living from it. But it takes time since loot is low. He then tells them about hunting bandits, which gives more loot, but is far riskier since bandits are hard to find, and they exact revenge on people who kill their own as well. Alan does not recommend bandit hunting as it is risky, and suggests Kaga to go to the labyrinth. He decides to go to the labyrinth, but first decides to get some tools and equipment, as his current sword makes it obvious for others to recognize him. He buys a sword and some equipment from the local market and heads into the forest. He enters the labyrinth from underneath a huge root under a tree. Kaga sees a few new options and jobs in his menu, and decides to take on a new role. He uses a new skill which lets him explore the dungeon, but it is limited to dungeon only. He walks around and sees a tree approaching, which is a monster. He strikes it and gets a branch as loot. He then uses his new ability Overwhelming to beat a monster by slowing down time. He takes on a few more monsters and sells them at the guild, but he thinks that such weak monsters won't get him the money to buy Roxanne. He decides to get up and early and uses warp to teleport to the labyrinth. He kills off a few monsters and tries to rest when the wall behind him moves. He sees something shining and thinks that it is a treasure, so he approaches it, but it turns out to be a trap set by the tree monsters. He is cornered with hundreds of monsters waiting to strike him. He slices a few but gets hurt as well. He tried to escape, but his dungeon walk won't work. He uses overwhelming but gets too tired to use it again. He thinks of a plan and decides to run to each corner every time so that he can save up on his mana. He is finally able to escape and thanks his sword for giving him the extra points. By chance, Kaga sees a group of people outside the town surrounding the body of a bandit. He asks people around and learns that a group of bandits are exiled from the town and that the dead bandit came back for revenge. He asks how they know it's a bandit, and they show that his left hand is cut, which can be used to get the bounty. Kaga considers it the best chance to earn the bounty when there is an infighting in the bandits' organization, and that he can use this to earn some proper money. Kaga decides that he should take on more bandits to earn more, and thinks if he can take on multiple bandits. Kaga then heads into the village and uses his skill to identify people and does not see a single bandit. He thinks back to what the writer told him about the slums and decides to investigate there. He heads over there and looks around. The slum reeks and everyone there is starving, which makes easier to look around. Guessing the bandits may show up at night, Kaga returns to the inn in the city and waits for late night. Kaga heads out in the night and sees that the town is so different than it is in the day. It is so dark everywhere that Kaga can barely see the road with candlelight. It takes some time for Kaga to finally adapt to such condition, but he accidentally enters the red light district. There are countless beautiful girls in front of him. Normally Kaga would have jumped in without hesitation, but now he only thinks about Roxanne. When he is about to leave, he notices a man with a scar on his face. With his skill, Kaga identifies that the man is a bandit. He takes the chance to follow him, and finally he comes to the bandit's place. He looks over and sees multiple bandits at the house and returns back to come at night. The next day, Kaga patiently waits out the entire day, and then later at night he visits the bandits' hideout again and learns more about the bandits and the owner of the bandana, Hugo, whom Kaga killed. He heads back and asks the inn owner about the bandits, who tells him that the bandits now have factions and are divided. Thus the slums are always in a bad condition, but he tells him that the city is safe thanks to the knights. Kaga sets out to get the bounty by killing the bandits and keeps the red bandana as well in order to trick them. He heads over and asks the bandit who is on lookout about the bandana and Hugo. He tells him about that Hugo was killed and then asks him to wait as he gets more information from his boss. He goes inside and decides to discuss it with him. In exchange for the bandana, the bandit was willing to pay 1 gold coin and asks him to come to his room for the money. He asks to see the bandana again, but just then he runs forward and steals Kaga's sword. He tells him to give up, but Kaga tricks him and throws the bandana over the candle. He runs to get it, and Kaga uses his sword that he had kept hidden to kill him. He slices off his hand Kaga, then sneaks into the next bedroom, killing every sleeping bandit in the faint light. He is very careful and tries not to make any sound. Unfortunately, one of the bandits makes a noise in which wakes a female bandit up, whom Kaga kills. One last bandit notices that something is wrong and rushes with his sword, but Kaga kills him too. Though Kaga kills the bandit successfully, the shouting still attracts other bandits' attention. He hurriedly chops off the bandit's left hand and quickly returns to the labyrinth with the portal. He views their intelligence cards and collects them for the bounty. He thinks of a way to hand the cards to knights, since they might be suspicious of him with various bandits' cards. He thinks that he will just approach them and lie that he was attacked by some people claiming to be bandits. He heads over to the Knights Guild and shows his intelligence card. The knight takes the bandits' cards away and comes back with a pouch with a lot of gold coins and some silver as well. Kaga is excited as he can finally afford Roxanne. With over 420,000 in his hand, he excitedly rushes to meet Alan. The slave merchant collects the money and later Roxanne joins them. She excises herself and begs mercy from Kaga as she has lost hope in him and begs for forgiveness. Kaga tells her that it is all right since he was the one who got late. The merchant then helps Kaga sign the contract between master and slave. Kaga is happy to see that his card shows that he owns Roxanne now. Kaga's eyes can't focus anymore since he has finally gotten what he wanted. Kaga returns with Roxanne and asks the inn owner for a bigger room since they are now 2 people. The owner gives him a double bed for his comfort and they head up. He can't help himself and asks her to let him rub her fox ears when he notices them. Roxanne looks nervous and stiff, but gives in to her master's order and doesn't resist Kaga at all. She asks if she should keep calling him master, which makes Kaga blush out of control. He then tells Roxanne that he was a distant traveler from afar, and that he would appreciate it if she would help him around since he does not know much. Kaga feels relived that he can trust her, and then asks Roxanne about her shoes, to which she replies that she does not own any. Kaga feels bad for not noticing, and gives her old sandals which auto-adjust to her feet. He hugs her, and tells her that he won't let her go. Afterwards, Kaga takes Roxanne to buy equipment as she needs some when they head into the labyrinth together. She asks for a shield and takes a lot of time to select just one. They head to the cloth shop and get some robes for some rainy days, and Kaga asks Roxanne to get a robe for herself as well. She asks Kaga to help select one, and she likes his choice. Kaga asks her to get anything she wishes, as it is a big night for them. She asks if she can get a pair of undergarments, to which Kaga agrees and blushes while imagining her in garments. Roxanne finds that Kaga is not rude and insolent as other men, but is gentle and meticulous, which releases her from being worried about what kind of master she may have. The night comes quietly. They go back to the inn to have a rest. Roxanne just sits on the floor since it is a world where slaves are not allowed to enjoy the bed unless it is for serving the master. But Kaga is unlike other men in this world. He pulls Roxanne to the bed, declaring that they will sleep on one bed together from now on. She tells him that usually masters just use the bed for their pleasure and later make the slaves sleep on the ground. Kaga is shocked, but tells her that they will share this bed together. Kaga is about to embrace her when she jumps off and tells him that there is still daylight out and that in the meantime, she will maintain the equipment. She asks Kaga if she can use her old garments as rags to clean the equipment, and he allows it. She then changes in front of him, which makes Kaga blush, so he turns around. She then cleans the equipment as well. Later on, the innkeeper brings them some water to clean up. Kaga decides to take actions. He asks Roxanne to clean his back, to which she humbly agrees too. Later on, Kaga asks to clean her back as well. Roxanne timidly takes off her clothes, with her body wiggling. He cleans her bosom as well. Later he asks to wash his head. Kaga can't take his sight off of Roxanne's chest since it is so big. With a feeling of being in the heaven, he finally can't hold his desire anymore. Roxanne realizes what will happen next. She feels shy but still takes out a maid outfit because she was told it may make the master happier. Kaga doesn't know what the merchant has taught to her, but instead of waiting for her dressing, he directly kisses Roxanne in a gentle way and puts her down slowly. After this wonderful experience, they become mature together. This experience gets them closer. They promise to both start and end their day by a kiss, and to take adventures in this dangerous world together. Roxanne changes her attitude towards Kaga from respect to love. Kaga needs to be concerned about his own survival, as well as taking care of Roxanne. Thus earning money in the labyrinth becomes so essential. They both get ready as he gives her leather armor to take care of herself. He takes her into the labyrinth, using his warp, which amazes Roxanne. Roxanne is good at smelling as she is half wolf, so she suggests Kaga to go left as she smells a monster there. She asks for a magic crystal so that they can save the energy from the monsters they defeat. Kaga feels bad as he killed so many monsters without collecting their energy. Kaga shows off his skill and kills a tree monster with a single strike, which amazes Roxanne. Along with Kaga's powerful strength, they wipe out many monsters in the labyrinth. Monsters can barely withstand Kaga's one shot. Roxanne is getting more obsessed with his bravery. At the inn, after collecting all the loot, Kaga asks Roxanne if he can feel her ears, which makes her blush, and she allows it. She asks if he will ever sell her off, and if he will ever return to his own homeland. He tells her that he plans to stay here with her forever, but she also needs to keep in mind that the party will need to grow since they cannot clear every level alone. The next day they go to Guild and get some crystals. Roxanne explains to Kaga how they work. She tells him that it turns red after killing 10 monsters and green after killing 100, and similarly the color changes each time after killing a fixed number of monsters. They head to the labyrinth, and Roxanne suggests that they should go above the first level since they can easily kill level 1 monsters. She tells him that the labyrinth is a creature that devours power by killing the adventurers with monsters. Kaga wants to defeat the labyrinth to become the top adventurer, so he keeps killing monsters to upgrade his level and to enter the next level of the labyrinth. He learns about the boss of each level, and in order to move up, he must defeat each boss. They head out to defeat more monsters, and Kaga tries a few tricks and wants to use his mage skills but is not able to activate it. He simply defeats them using his sword. Roxanne tells him that the crystal must have changed, and it had turned red since they defeated 10 monsters. Kaga gets a new skill which lets him multiple his kill count by 32, which helps him to make his crystal purple, which shocks Roxanne. He then uses his skills to adjust Roxanne's skills as she is her party member. He asks about if she can heal, and she tells him that only priest or monk can do that. She tells him that they can get the monk skill if they defeat a monster using their bare hands. Kaga thinks of this as a good idea and asks Roxanne to use her hands to defeat the monster. She agrees and tries to defeat a monster, but it is difficult. Kaga helps her, but Roxanne can manage it by her own, as she is strong as well. Kaga is amazed as she defeats the monster and gains the monk skill. Kaga tries it out next and lowers his sword's impact to deal less damage and then defeats the monster with his bare hands. After a hard day of fighting, Kaga takes Roxanne back to the inn. Unlike a master, he doesn't ask Roxanne to serve him. Instead, he offers to help her clean her body. Roxanne feels embarrassed and blushes as he cleans her body. Later on, they embrace in a night full of love. The next day, they reach the waiting area. They have to face the boss in the first level of the labyrinth so that they can move forward. Roxanne becomes super excited-eyed and cannot wait to fight the boss. She is even more enthusiastic about the battle than Kaga. The boss is a giant tree monster, which is immune to normal attacks as well as skills. Fortunately, Kaga and Roxanne work well together after the combats these days. Roxanne takes the initiative to attract the enemy's attention, and Kaga immediately slashes at the giant tree man's weak point, cutting it in half. Then they are qualified to enter the second level and gain a new profession called herbalist. Kaga also wants to learn this skill, so he beats the boss as well to get the skill. He uses that skill with the ability to transform herbs into medicine. Kaga then visits the guild to get a few other medicines for their future adventures. They both decide to head back to Labyrinth as it is still day outside. There are also many tree men in the second level, as well as Caterpillar that spits silk. Kaga kills of the level 2 tree monster with a single hit as well, and then counters the Caterpillar as well. Later on, he asks if number of monsters increase each level, and she tells him that the monsters will increase after a set number of levels. They see 2 Caterpillar monsters, and they try to fight them off. Kaga kills the Caterpillar while Roxanne sees that the other Caterpillar used a magic spell and throws a silk net on Kaga. He is trapped by the silk and is almost killed. Fortunately, he kills the Caterpillar in time and gets away from the silk. On his way back to the inn, Kaga is talking to Roxanne, and then suddenly he notices a man spying on the slave shop. He identifies the man as a bandit with his skill and tells the slave merchant about it. The merchant thinks about it for a while before he tells his suspicions. The thief who stole the bandit's bandana was bought by 2 men yesterday, but they didn't take the thief away immediately, which aroused the merchant's suspicions, since bandits' bandanas are not generally of importance. Kaga also raises his questions and says that maybe the thief may have been in contact with the bandits since long ago, and bandits intend to attack the shop along with the thief at night. Kaga decides to leave since he warned the owner, but Roxanne is worried since the old women there used to take good care of her, so she cannot bear to see her in danger. Kaga then offers to cooperate with the merchant and asks the merchant to hire him as his bodyguard. He agrees and offers him 1K and the loot from the bandits. They both go to the room in the back and rest up. Roxanne wakes Kaga up with a kiss and they both get ready. As darkness falls, they see that the merchant also has some guard slaves ready to help him. Roxanne smells that the door is now open and tells that the bandits are now entering. The merchant asks Kaga to protect the slaves and a few customers on the first floor, while his guards deal with the bandits. Most of the bandits are stopped by the guards, but one of them still sneaks into the shop. Kaga immediately chases after him, trying to take this opportunity to use the first magic he has learned, which is able to decrease the enemy's health power in equal amounts by decreasing Kaga's magic power until the enemy dies. He quietly approaches the bandit in the darkness and then casts his magic. Kaga quickly becomes weak and falls to the ground. It turns out that when his magic power is too low, his health power will also be depleted. The merchant hears the sound and rushes over. His lamp lights the bandit's broken body on the ground. Kaga is shocked and scared. If the enemy's HP is much higher than his magic power, he will be the dead one. The merchant thinks that maybe the bandit used a self-destruct orb. Seeing Kaga become weak, Roxanne feels guilty for her selfish request. To comfort Roxanne, Kaga immediately heads to the labyrinth with the portal, which further consumes his magic power. With Roxanne's help, he absorbs the monster's magic power with the longsword and finally recovers. Though the previous battle was dangerous, he got a new role of mage. He acquires various magics for casting various elements. In this world, few people can cast magics, so he decides to keep this as a secret out of cautiousness. As a magician, Kaga can cast magics of different attributes. Besides, the fire magic alone includes the flame ball, the flame wall, and the flame storm. He casts flame magic, which amuses him, and he tests it out on 2 tree monsters. Kaga thinks that he needs to focus on his mage abilities, and asks Roxanne that he will use his magic so that he can level up more. so he uses his magic to kill off a few caterpillars as well. His fighting power is rapidly improved, which gives him enough confidence. They reach the end of the second level of the labyrinth to challenge the boss, a giant caterpillar. Kaga uses his firewall to block the monster's silk. Roxanne gets into a close combat and slashes it. They join forces to quickly kill the boss and take the trophies to the next level. They head up, and Roxanne smells a few ugly goblins known as kobolds, which are too weak for Roxanne and Kaga, and they end up killing all of them with ease. None of the ugly elves can resist one shot of Kaga. After figuring out the terrain of the third level, they leave. Kaga learns that some magicians earn money by teleportation magic along the way. Kaga can't wait to have a try, so he pays the magicians to send him to various cities. Then he comes back to Roxanne with his warp magic, but it wastes a lot of his magic power. Roxanne quickly takes him back to the inn. They erase their tiredness by washing each other's bodies, turning the atmosphere in the room to be romantic. They kiss with affection, and the romance of this moment melts them. As it goes further, Roxanne's voice gets louder and seductive. They get satisfied both in their bodies and souls, enjoying the moment with their lovers. In the morning, Kaga takes Roxanne to a city of quarter. Kaga takes Roxanne there and sees their labyrinth door, and sees that they have to pay each time they enter, since it is in one of the major cities. But Roxanne advises him that he can use warp and go there anytime, and it won't be an issue. They mistake a hardware shop for a weapons shop, and they head back to find a suitable wand for Kaga, so that he better cast his magic spells along the way. They talk about living in the city. Kaga returns to the hardware shop and asks about a house for sale, and they talk about a suitable district to live in. She asks if they prefer living in the mountains away from the labyrinth, or if they need to live near it. Since Kaga can warp anywhere, so he decides it will be cheaper to live far away from the labyrinth, since they can come and go with ease. They go and see a big home near the mountains and trees. Roxanne and Kaga inspect the home and decide to move in. They pay the lease and decide to rent the house for a year. They go back to Vale and stay one last night at the inn. For their last night, Kaga carefully cleans Roxanne's body, and this special feeling gets Roxanne flushed. They soon fall into another deep interaction, feeling extremely happy. Afterwards, they move into their new house. Kaga intends to kiss Roxanne to celebrate, but is interrupted by the workers delivering the furniture. After a busy day, they finally clean up the house. Now, nobody can interrupt them. Kaga puts his arms around Roxanne. It is their first time enjoying happiness in their new house. With Kaga's intimate interactions, Roxanne feels happy and is glad that she can easily live with Kaga. In the morning, they head down to the city's labyrinth. They are amazed to see so many parties there to participate in the hunt. Roxanne explains how the Emperor's force has reached the 91st flower since they have strong party members. They start to fight the level 1 monsters and its way to easy, so they decide to head to level 2 of the labyrinth. Kaga feels sad about how the labyrinth is so easy, and no real threat is there yet. They both decide to go to the city for a meal, and so that they can collect the seeds from the hardware store manager. They get a shovel as well for the yard as well as the seeds. They both set up the yard and get to work. They plow the fields and create a fence as well. Kaga visits the woodworker and orders a huge wooden tub which he intends to use as a bathtub so that he can bathe in peace. He thinks of how he can have fun with Roxanne in the tub as well. They head back to the labyrinth for some sparring and get some new items which they test out in their new dishes. Roxanne feels excited, and then also decides to give an extra mile in their next raid. They fight off a tripe in the labyrinth and visit Vale as well. They spend their time having fun and enjoying their life while also hunting monsters in the Kuritar labyrinth. They slowly head to defeat the boss of that level, but it is tricky as Kaga gets attacked from one of the monster's spells. He rushes forward as he can recover mana, and at the same time heals Roxanne as well. They both attack the monster and win, but Kaga is worn out. They return home, and Kaga waits for his bathtub to arrive. They both prepare the bath as Kaga heats up the water with his magic. Later on, Kaga uses soap that he created and smears Roxanne's body with it. Roxanne then uses her body to wash up Kaga, which he enjoys. After a break, Roxanne and Kaga return to the labyrinth and continue their adventure. They hunt down a rabbit, and Roxanne tells him that if they kill enough, they can sell their fur for a high price as noble women love authentic fur. So they head down and find more rabbits to kill. In boss room of the 7th level, there is a fierce red rabbit. Soon, Roxanne and Kaga defeat it with perfect coordination. Besides the fur, they also get the rabbit meat. The rabbit meat becomes very delicious after Roxanne carefully cooks them. As Kaga gets hooked on this taste, they come to the labyrinth again, intending to challenge the red rabbit. At this moment, they find a long line of adventurers. There is a blonde man in front of them. excitedly stating that he has been adventuring in the labyrinth for 2 years. If he defeats the Red Rabbit, he can save enough money for more party members. Sadly, Kaga and Roxanne see the blonde man's outfit after entering the labyrinth, which means he was killed by the boss, which makes Kaga sad, as it means that lives are that easy to lose in the labyrinth. After they return home, Kaga thinks about the death of the blonde adventurer, and that the labyrinths are a risky place. He feels that anyone can lose their life, so they need to be careful. Roxanne hugs him so that he can feel better, and they fall asleep. They head back to the labyrinth and encounter stronger monsters each time, but they take them down. Kaga checks his items that he has about 300 fur coats, which they decide to go and sell in the city. In the shop, they decide to check out various articles, and Kaga thinks that Roxanne would look good in them. They get plenty of money for selling the fur coats and head back home. They head back to the labyrinth and encounter stronger monsters. He gets distracted and accidentally hurts his finger during the battle. At night, during their bath, Roxanne licks his wound to ease the pain. But Roxanne's movements are so seductive that Kaga can't hold back and asks her to lick other parts of his body in the same way. That night, Kaga's body and mind both get happy and satisfied. They head back to fight more monsters, and Kaga uses his magic to kill even more monsters. Kaga thinks to himself that he needs to expand his party even more, since they cannot just keep on fighting with just 2 people. Kaga then sees that he only got 2 furs even though he defeated 3 rabbits, but Roxanne tells him that they just found a skill crystal, which shocks Kaga. Kaga views the skill crystal and thinks that he needs to find a dwarf who can set up this and forge the skills. He then thinks of selling the yellow crystal as payment. He then tells Roxanne that he wants to write a will so that in case he dies, then Roxanne can be free and not a slave. Roxanne kneels down and tells Kaga that if he trusts her, then he will not write a will. They decide to find a way to increase his own combat power. After discussion, they decide to buy a smith as a slave. In this way, they can enhance their equipment attributes with the crystals they get from their adventures. They go and meet Alan and ask if they can buy a dwarf slave. The only one in a slave shop who has a chance to become a smith is a dwarf girl, Sherry. She has not yet performed so well in the labyrinth, so she has not been recognized by the Smith Guild. Sherry takes the initiative to sell herself, stating that she is very strong. Roxanne reminds Kaga that Sherry's ears are long and thin, which means she may be a bit older. After thinking for a while, Kaga decides to negotiate with the merchant because he thinks Sherry has the value to get trained. A dwarf who has not become a smith yet is not so valuable, plus the merchant is eager to sell it, so Kaga finishes the deal at a very low price. He seals the deal with a bonus outfit as well. From then on, Kaga becomes Sherry's master, but he notices that Roxanne becomes upset. He feels happy for Roxanne's jealousy because it proves that she loves him. When they get home together, Sherry feels shocked that Kaga not only has multiple professions. More surprisingly, Kaga even invites her to sit on a chair to have a conversation. At this moment, Sherry realizes that she meets a powerful and kind master. After Sherry joins the team, what Kaga does first is to pick a suitable weapon for her. She asks for a spear as she is easily able to wield it. They all sit, and Sherry is shocked to learn that her master can even cast magic, which shocks her even more. They buy a spear from the shop and head back home. Kaga makes sure to get her armor and clothing so that they can work well in the labyrinth. Kaga tells Roxanne to get ready since they will be going to the labyrinth today, and tells Sherry that she does not have to come if she does not feel like it, but she is excited to come and wants to join in. Sherry then talks about the skill crystal and the empty slow theory about each weapon to Kaga, which makes him understand that not many people know about it, and only he can see empty slot skills and weapons. She even tells him about the rare job known as Adventurer, which only the top elite knights and emperors had, and no one other than them have acquired it. Kaga is intrigued by all this, and soon as they are armed with their new weapon, they venture into the labyrinth. Kaga is eager to show his power in front of the new member, fighting bravely with the monsters. He thinks his handsome look when fighting will surely charm Sherry, not realizing that Sherry has been focusing on Roxanne's magnificent dodging of all the monsters' attacks during the battle. Sherry quite admires Roxanne, which makes Kaga feel a bit disappointed. When they return home through the portal, Sherry is shocked at Kaga's ability to cast magics without chanting an incantation. She asks about his level, and is still amazed that he can one-shot enemies even at that level, and thinks that maybe it's due to his sword. She looks at Kaga with admiration, which satisfies Kaga's ambition. In the evening, Sherry prepares elaborate cuisines of the dwarfs. When Kaga tries to hand her the food first, he feels a strong pressure from Roxanne and hurries to serve the food to Roxanne first. He realizes that he needs to be more thoughtful in order to stabilize the family relationship. After dinner, they discuss the differences between the races. Kaga asks if humans have a special skill, And then both Sherry and Roxanne agree that all humans are just horny all the time. Later in the night, Kaga goes for a bath and feels glad that he will have fun in the bath with both of them. Kaga wastes in the bath while they both talk. The both enter, which makes Kaga feel as if he is in paradise. He feels excited when he sees Sherry's wet hair. The both compete to see who gets to have fun with the master, but Sherry feels bad since Roxanne got chosen first. She also tells him that they should use their bodies to clean their master. They all enjoy the bath, while Kaga feels joy that he has Roxanne on one side and Sherry on the other. After that, they head to sleep and Sherry blushes as she seems to realize what will happen next tonight. Kaga tells Sherry that it is a rule in this house to kiss before sleeping, and after waking up, and then he kisses Sherry. At this moment, he notices Roxanne's displeasure and realizes he made the wrong choice. He can only lie that the most important person must be kissed until last, thus soothing Roxanne. Kaga feels relaxed as if he dodged a bullet and lays down. Roxanne goes on top of him, and they show their love to each other in front of Sherry. When it's Sherry's turn, she shyly opens her eyes to see how Kaga dotes on her. They romance, and then Sherry gives in. Roxanne joins in as well, and they all enjoy the night. In the night after Kaga falls asleep, Sherry tells Roxanne that she is happy to be here with them, and is happy to serve Kaga. When Kaga wakes up, he sees that Sherry's hair is sticking up like usual. He learns that he is given a new profession, the pervert, which boosts the value of his various attributes. He then thinks that he will buy more slaves. He decides to practice and level up this occupation. So he buys more slaves, and one by one he increases his slaves. Some he gets from the slave shop, and the others he buys from the auction. He wants more lovely girls of different races to become his lovers. He feels that he has gotten everything and enjoy his life.